You use the word money dozens of times a day. Paycheck, groceries, rent, savings. The same word, the same dollar for every job. So here's a question that sounds like semantics, but isn't. Is the thing you use to buy coffee actually the same as the tool you use to protect your future? Most people assume yes, but assuming yes without ever checking might be one of the most expensive assumptions you make. This is the honest ledger. Last episode, we established why gold and silver won the monetary competition across history, and why the properties that made them trustworthy eventually disappeared from modern money. That left an open question. If the dollar lacks some of those properties, what is it exactly? This episode answers that. We're going to separate two concepts most people treat as identical: money and currency. We'll show when they overlap, when they break apart, and why that distinction matters for your savings and purchasing power. This isn't theory. It's the difference between thinking clearly about your financial life and not. The confusion is understandable. Your paycheck arrives in dollars. Your rent is priced in dollars. Your savings sit in dollars. Wages, prices, bills, all the same unit. So why separate them? If the same thing does every job, why make the distinction? Because being widely used in transactions doesn't mean something preserves value well over time. Those are two different functions, and the fact that one object can appear to do both doesn't mean they're identical. Overlap is not identity. The dollar circulates. The dollar prices things. It moves through the economy with real efficiency. But whether it holds your purchasing power across 10 years, whether the work you do this week still buys the same things a decade from now, that's a separate question, and it has a different answer. Money is the tool people use to carry value across time, not to spend, but to store. Here's the logic. You work this week, you produce more than you consume, so you set aside some of it for next month, next year, for retirement. You need something that will still represent that value when you come back for it. Think of money as a battery for human labor. You charge the battery when you work. You store the energy of your time and effort. And when you need it later, years later, a good battery still holds that charge. A bad battery leaks. Gold served this function for thousands of years, not because governments declared it valuable, but because it actually held its charge. It didn't decay. Its supply grew slowly and predictably. No single authority could flood the world with it. When you saved in gold, the purchasing power you put in tended to still be there when you came back. That is what money is supposed to do. Not move, hold. Currency does something different. Currency moves value right now. It reduces friction. It lets you convert what you have into what you need, quickly, at scale, and without negotiating each transaction from scratch. Cash in your wallet, the balance on your phone, a tap at the register. Currency is about speed, circulation, convenience, and it's genuinely essential. Without an efficient currency, commerce breaks down. The coordination that lets millions of people trade across enormous distances depends on a shared transactional layer that moves fast and is universally accepted. Currency solves that problem. So currency isn't lesser than money. It's not the villain here. It just does a different job. Money holds, and currency moves. Both are real. Both are necessary. The question is knowing which one you're relying on and whether the tool you're using is actually doing that job. For most of human history, the same thing did both jobs reasonably well. Gold and silver coins circulated as currency. You used them to buy bread, pay wages, settle debts, and they also functioned as money. You could save in them, store purchasing power, and come back years later to find your savings still meant something. One object, two functions, both working. That's the ideal. When money and currency overlap well, people barely notice the distinction. Saving feels meaningful. The work you do today can still be retrieved tomorrow. But that overlap isn't guaranteed. And when it breaks down, when the thing circulating as currency stops functioning as sound money, the consequences are real and deeply unfair to the people who trusted the system. Now this is the most important part of the episode, because the failure mode isn't dramatic. It's quiet. A currency can keep circulating in transactions. People keep using it every day. Prices stay denominated in it. Wages keep getting paid, while simultaneously failing as a store of value. Circulation and preservation are not the same function. The Roman denarius began as silver. Real silver, roughly 90% pure. It circulated and it stored value. Sound is both currency and money. Then, over decades, Roman rulers reduced the silver content to fund wars, to pay their soldiers. The coins kept circulating, same denomination, same name, same transactions, but the silver content fell to 50%, then to 20%, and eventually to under 5%. The coins still moved. Prices were still denominated in denarii. Wages still got paid. But savings in denarii were quietly evaporating. Soldiers demanded grain instead of coins. Merchants hoarded the older, purer coins. Prices rose. The currency kept circulating, but the money was failing. Let's look at Weimar Germany in 1923. Germans still used marks. The stores still had prices in marks. Wages were still paid in marks. But by November, workers were being paid twice daily so they could spend before inflation consumed their wages further. Wheelbarrows of cash for a loaf of bread. A lifetime of savings gone. The currency circulated to the very end. The money had already failed. And you don't need hyperinflation to feel this. A savings account earning 1% annually while inflation runs at 4%? Sure, your balance rises. You have more dollars than you started with. But your purchasing power, what those dollars actually buy, is shrinking. The currency is working, but the battery is leaking. Just because it works at checkout doesn't mean it works as savings. That distinction is everything. This isn't history for its own sake. You are paid in a currency. You save in that currency. You plan your future in it. Whether it's also doing a good job as money, whether it preserves your purchasing power across time, is one of the most consequential questions you face, and most people never ask it. They look at a savings account balance and feel reassured. The number went up. But a number going up and purchasing power going up are not the same thing. If the currency you're saving in is being created faster than the economy grows, if its supply expands in ways that erode its value, then the work you're doing today is being slowly, quietly taxed in a way that you might not notice for years. Not by a thief, not through any single event, just through the gap of what the currency does and what money is supposed to do. You still need currency. Everyone does. The point isn't to stop using it. The point is to stop assuming that because something circulates well, it stores well too. Those are two different jobs, and the tool you're relying on for both deserves that question. Currency moves value through the present. Money preserves value across time. Sometimes the same thing does both. Sometimes it doesn't. And when they come apart, when the thing circulating around you stops preserving what you put into it, there's no announcement. The currency keeps moving. Life continues. You only find out later when you come back for what you stored and find less than you left. So, here's the question we're sitting with. If the thing you use every day is efficient for transactions, but weak at storing value, what are you actually saving? That question leads directly to the next one, and that's what we're going to look at next time. This is The Honest Ledger. See you next time.